Welcome to the Career Coffee Chat podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Urban, certified career strategist and executive coach, removing career roadblocks so you can achieve more impact, influence, and income.
We have a great guest today. In fact, I've been looking forward to having this lady on the show for quite some time. So if you're interested in finding the keys to your inner brilliance and unlocking your potential, you're in the right place. Come on in, say hi, pull up a chair, say your name, share where you're from, and don't be shy with your questions either, because as we talk about these 5 key lessons, the intersection of your life and work with Sonya Ware, professional certified coach and executive coach, I want you to give us some feedback and let us know what is meaningful to you and what would you like to know more about. Because we'll be diving into some great topics like leaning into the gifts of everyday moments, diving into your own unlimited resources within inside yourself, and discovering an easy way to tap into your energy. Sonya Ware, CEO and strategist, has over 15 years of coaching leadership excellence in corporations and with individuals. She helps her clients to demonstrate self-mastery, build a shared vision, and collaborate for innovation while delivering extraordinary results. A little bit more about Sonya is she is a fantastically, how can I say, just the most centered, grounded person. And I am looking forward to having a fantastic conversation. And Sonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Sonya, inquiring minds want to know, what inspired you to become an executive coach? What inspired you to get into the field of coaching?
Yeah, lots of inspirations along the way. And I always say I was coaching before we called it coaching, right? So in my career, I always played to my strengths. It was just something that I learned over time. I guess I shouldn't say I always played to my strengths because there was a lot of frustration before playing the strengths. But as soon as I did that, it just started to unlock, the ladder. And folks would stop by and go, "What the heck are you doing? Like, talk to me more." And so that was the start of coaching. It was all around career. And then that transitioned into more senior leaders, right? Which is a totally different coaching model. Because what do you know to tell them? Who are you? You've never played this game kind of attitude. But that was more about demonstrating leadership, asking powerful questions, which also grew my own leadership. So just along the way, it evolved internal to corporations. And then when I launched my business, it was just a natural banner or shingle to hang out. And so I have done that. I think at the root of it, and you and I were just talking about this a little earlier, the root of it is we're all given gifts and tools to use those gifts. And I believe that my gifts were to have conversations. I mean, the word conversation actually means changing together, right? And so the tools are the words we use and share with one another. And that's at the root of executive coaching is a channel for the source of my gifts, because it's an opportunity to have conversations that change lives, not only my clients, but my life too. I learned so much from them.
That's really fascinating, because I think you're right. As coaches, one of the foundational elements is, of course, developing yourself as coach. So developing yourself as coach. Yes. And then also knowing that each coaching engagement with your client, while ideally, hopefully it went well, they'll walk away with some transformation and insights. But also you're learning from that as well as a coach. And also, I feel like just the beauty of the whole process helps both partners. It's almost like a dance, right? So
yes, yeah.
I'm holding space for you. We're having this fantastic conversation.
Yes.
And you're going through a transformation, but so am I.
Right. Yeah. No, it is transformative.
Yeah. I think it's just a beautiful thing. And if you've ever heard, so those of you tuning in either now or later, let me know in the chat if you've ever been told, "Gosh, you would make a great coach," or I could just talk to you for hours about a topic. Let me know if that's true for you, because that's something that I heard. I don't know about you too, Sonya. You probably heard that as well. Before I became an official coach with certifications and all the initials, that's something I heard. I could talk to you I could just talk to you about anything. And sometimes those people in the grocery store line. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that self as coach. I mean, that's a really big part of the training that, you and I met in. And And it's true. It's self as everything. I actually care for my mother, and I had to figure out what's self as daughter. Because we have this, the world imposes what a good daughter is, right? Well, what's self as daughter? Like, what are those expectations that I have for myself and how I show up in this work? And I've been batting it out of the park ever since, so self as mother, self as sister, self as friend, self as friend, really knowing like, what are those expectations and boundaries, and who am I, what triggers me, what excites me, and anchoring, authoring the life you're living. Right?
Absolutely. And for those of you tuning in, if you don't get anything else out of this show, that right there, that's golden. I mean, I want to say hi to Tony, who's tuning in from San Antonio. Great to see you. And she's, looking forward to attaining her brilliance. As a part of it, it's understanding self in our different situations. And let me know, those of you tuning in, if this resonates with you as well. I feel like we have situational personas, right? We have a beautiful complexity that's us. And then how we show up in a different situation depends on what part of that we put forward and where we put more emphasis and energy versus the other parts of us. So it's not like we're donning a mask or taking it off. It's just really, where are we putting the energy and emphasis? So understanding, okay, who am I as, daughter / caretaker, with me as well. My mom's not needing full-time care, but, she does need presence, right? A lot more of me being present. What does that look like? What are those healthy boundaries? So I think that's a great start to finding inner brilliance. What do you think, Sonya?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. You said that so well. When you were talking about like how you show up situationally, it's not a mask, but you're actually fine tuning for the situation, how you want to show up in that space, how much of yourself are you going to put in the space. It reminds me of the word. I have one of these friends, and we might all have one that says, "What's your word for the year?" That's that and the imposter syndrome are like the buzzwords right now. Like, I don't have a word. But my word was cadence. And the way you describe that, like doing that dance with each facet of life and staying true to authentic self, that feels like cadence. And you describe for me something I wasn't able to describe to others, but I know what it is when I have it. And it's exactly what you said. I'm in relationship with others and in situations, but I'm not losing myself.
Absolutely.
The self that I've authored.
That's golden right there. Yeah, that's key. Understanding, how are we showing up that's true and authentic to ourselves?
Yeah.
And also being very aware, am I flexing outside of what is authentic to me based on others' expectations?
Wow.
I've been there more than once. Has anybody else been there?
Yeah. This isn't my nugget, but Jana Van Zant says, we teach people how to treat us.
Ooh.
We teach people how to treat us.
I need to write that down.
Right? We need to be quiet and just let that soak, right? No, but we do. And we do it this is one of those brilliance things, I guess, since we got to have 5. We do it in how we set boundaries and expectations. And I love that boundary starts with B, expectation starts with E. Like, who do you want to be? Well, that's probably not great English, right? But who do I want to be in this moment, in this situation? What do I want? What's the calling on my life? And I'll start right there.
That's very powerful. I want to say hi to Stephanie. Good to see you. ICF cohort member in the house.
Right.
We were talking too right before we started the show. And by the way, the train is going through just for you, ladies and gentlemen. So special for you. This morning we have the train. Did it, train? And we were talking right before the show.
Yeah. It's an agreement with all we've said, right?
It's an agreement. We're talking right before the show about some very powerful training you had about mind, heart, and gut brain.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Because that was really inspirational for me. Because whenever you have a decision point, you find that maybe your logic brain is telling you one thing, and your heart is really somewhere else, and then your gut's like,
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's powerful stuff because there's a lot of science behind it, and anybody who wants that, it's available. That's not
Yeah.
where I get juiced. But when we are incongruent in our decisions or life happenings, it's because our head brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain are in misalignment. And so this work is, working with clients to, number one, hear what those brains have to say regarding a particular situation or decision, and then figuring out how we align them so the person has a little bit more peace and can be intentional as they move forward. And it sounds like really simple, but it is simple. But we learn a lot from it. I had a client call me the other day just off the cuff and said, I got this dilemma, some big work thing. And she had to make a decision around it. So I asked her to breathe in. And so Erin, she was way out here. And it's like, let's bring it down. Bring it down.
We need to bring it down.
Yeah. So I think mindfulness would be nice to talk about. But she brought it down. And then from that place, we unpacked what was happening in her head. And then we moved to her heart and her head started talking again. I was like, okay, you told me what you think. Let's go back down. So we had to keep going back down. And by the time we finished, the realization was that her head is driving everything. Heart can't get a peep in. The gut, forget that, right? And the gut protects us. It's been with us the whole trip, right? So we need that information. The heart is the feelings, the emotions, how we are with others. So we need that because it's not just about us. And then the head's the logic. But if the head's driving, we're missing a lot of other good information. Or if the heart is leading, sometimes we might not be making very good decisions around possibilities, right? Or if the gut isn't leading, we're self-sacrificing. Everyone else goes first. Like, you go first.
Yeah. But everybody has, I think, a default they tend to lean into based on
exactly
how they feel like they should be, or maybe models that they saw growing up, or expectations they're trying to meet. So I'd love to hear from you too, from all of you tuning in this morning. Which one do you think leads for you? Is it your heart brain? Is it your head brain or your gut brain? I know mine like to duke it out.
All three like to duke it out.
Yeah, like to duke it out, and it's interesting. And I think we got a lot of information on something you just shared, Sonya, because we talked a little bit about bringing down the thought levels. So just to explain a little bit, because we're also talking about that before the show as well. Like when you find yourself very stressed, your cortisol levels up, and you can't really focus, and there's a lot of thoughts bouncing around in your head, you're in what's called high beta, so a very agitated brainwave state. So when we start focusing on our breath and centering exercises, something I call mindlessness, so it's really getting to a point of 0 point, really emptying out, letting those brainwave states calm to alpha state, which are more congruent, more aligned, more healthy and balanced state. We learn better, we're calmer, make better decisions, and we can also access different parts of our brains much easily in the alpha state. So when you get those brainwave states calmer, that's when we can start doing some of that really important inner work and accessing our inner brilliance.
Yeah. I was having a little improv moment thinking, you're brilliant at your mindfulness practice. I love that you include emotion and intention. I just wondered if people have a little dilemma and if we could breathe into that moment and then ask those questions and they just answer for themselves and see if it gives them any insight.
Yeah.
Do you have space for that? Yeah, because I'd love to breathe in for a moment and then I can ask the questions of those hearts. Start with jot down a dilemma you're having. And then we'll go through your bringing it all down, and then those gentle questions.
That would be fun.
Yay!
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Play.
Let's do a live show. Okay, for those of you tuning in, an hour later, just take a moment and jot down. Sonya, what was your word? Just jot down a word, or
just some dilemma or challenge you're having, right? So, how do I decide what to do in this case?
Something you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I have something I'm wrestling with too right now.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is I would like to walk you through what I call mindlessness. Now, some of you tuned in before. You may have been with me through this very short exercise. But what it does, to give you a premise, is it helps you focus on the presence and clear the thoughts by occupying your mind with all of your senses, which take up a lot of cognitive space.
Right.
So take a nice deep breath and let that out. And step number 1 is become very aware of being still. So you're just very aware of your body being still. Thoughts will enter your mind. The key here is not to engage with that thought. Let it pass by, almost like leaves drifting on the wind. So let it pass by. So you're just aware of being still. And we'll do that for 5 seconds. I'll count it for you. How does that feel? It's good? Yeah. The next step is you're focusing on your body being still. And then you're picking a point to look at. It can be any point. It could be us. It could be looking outside the window. It doesn't really matter. What matters here is that you're focusing your body on being still. You're looking at a point, and you're letting those thoughts just pass by. You're not grasping or engaging with those thoughts. You ready? Let's do that for another count of 5. I'll count it for you. Now, how do you feel now? A little bit calmer? Yeah. Now we have 2 more steps. So the third step is you're focusing on your body being still. You're focusing on a point, then you're bringing in the sensation of touch. Maybe that's your hands on your legs, breeze on your face. You're just aware of a physical sensation of touch. I'll count it for 5. Okay. The final step is, of course, focusing on being still, letting those thoughts drift through the mind, focusing on a point, being aware of a sensation of touch, and a sound. Maybe that's the white noise of the fan in the room, birds chirping. Whichever it is, find a sound, or even white noise. Focus on all of these things calmly, and we'll count up for 5. Okay. Does anybody actually want to come out of that state?
Show's over.
Show's over now.
Yeah,
No,
from this place.
Everybody's asleep.
No, but it's really such a relaxed space. And from this space, then I'll ask you to place 2 fingers above your nose between your eyes. And then just ask aloud or in your mind's eye the dilemma you have. Should I take this job or not? Whatever that dilemma is. And listen to the head's response and make note. And when you're done, you can move your hands. Stay in this happy place Erin has given us. Then take those same 2 fingers, place them over your heart, and speak that dilemma again. And listen to your heart for feelings, emotion, not logic and explanation, but warmth, fear, sadness. What emotions come up, what colors, what sensation, and just make notice of those. And when we're done with that, breathe into that relaxed place that Erin's taken us to. And then the final place are those same 2 fingers just below your navel, which is the solar plexus. And again, speak your dilemma or question and listen for how the gut responds. And the gut's pretty straight to the point. And may cuss a little. The
bit.
gut's pretty straight, yeah. And see
Like,
what's coming up for it. You know, exactly. All right. You just notice on your dilemma, what came up in your head, your heart, and gut, where they might be misaligned.
Right.
And what's coming up for you now? What are you noticing? I don't know how interactive it can be. I don't see the chat or anything. But,
yeah. So, for those of you who did decide to walk through that exercise, what is coming up for you? What did your head say? What did your heart say? What did your gut say? I'll be happy to share while you're thinking about it.
Please, what was new information?
Yeah, so, the head went into analysis paralysis.
Okay.
The head went into analysis paralysis because it was like, okay, we have all this going on, we have all that going on, so logically it doesn't make sense. However, you can make a difference. So is all this, list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The heart said, you can do good.
Mm.
You can do good. You are stronger than you know.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And the gut said, run away.
Don't take it. Yeah.
You've been through so much over the past year. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the head, basically, is it possible? It's possible. It's possible, right? Yeah. Are you capable of doing it? That's the heart's response. Are you capable?
Yes.
Yeah. The gut, do you want to do it?
Absolutely not.
We're not doing this, right?
Not doing it.
Yeah. And there's so many ways you can align the three, right? Mm-hmm. So what's come up for you in terms of aligning the three? What are you going to do maybe at this point?
Is there another way I can approach this that doesn't send the gut into cardiac arrest?
Okay.
Yeah. Is there something, okay, maybe that exact thing, maybe not the right time.
Right.
But maybe there's something else.
Yeah. Or could I advise or do something else, right? But just not the thing as it's been. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good.
Because in order to do it, I could show up heart and head, but the gut would be sabotaging me.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah. And you said something early on, your three battle. There are some people that the other two don't even get a chance to speak. So I'd love to hear some of how that experience was for them or what they noticed, if anything.
Yeah, so Daryl mentioned, he said, good morning, San Antonio.
Hi, Daryl. Yeah, I've got good friends on the line. Yeah,
he said, can you address the role of fear in personal and professional growth and how you overcame it? So for some people, maybe that's fear. I know my gut has a lot of fear right now. It has a lot of fear because it's like, oh my God, the world is going to end. It's just too much. And that's what the gut's saying. So it's a lot of fear, involved in that.
Daryl, that actually made me think of Tony Robbins, and he just says, F everything and run. That's how fear F everything and run. Or you can stay and face it and be empowered and take action and grow in it. A lot of times it's feel the fear and just move forward. But if you check in with the three brains, hopefully you won't do anything very detrimental. But what helps me, and it doesn't have to help everybody, what centers me in that place is my belief in something bigger than myself, which is one of those other inner brilliance pieces. And I know that fear and love can't live in the same heart. And I choose love. And it'll cover a multitude of fears and a multitude of sins. And usually what we fear, there's a 99% chance it won't happen. I don't know the science behind it, but so Daryl, the other thing is and Aaron knows this, when we're getting people to shift outside their comfort zone, because it's nice and cozy in our comfort zone. And then way on the other side is everything that's not our comfort zone, but that's where all the action's happening. I ask clients to figure out what's one baby step that I can take outside my comfort zone. For example, if they have a fear of speaking in public places or even in a classroom, at university. Number one, they don't want to say something and look like a total idiot. They don't want to make any mistakes. And so the goal is to have them interacting more. So we say, let's pretend there's a camera watching And all we need to see is you interacting more. It doesn't mean you have to come with some smart answer that gets judged or not, but it could be just repeating something that excuse me, Coach Aaron, when you said run, did you mean run or walk? Right? So even though I haven't exposed my intellect capability or not, but I have interacted. If someone were recording, I go, oh, she's interacting, she's present, she's engaged. That's a baby step, right? And then eventually they'll be like, hi, I'm Coach Aaron, and I have a question for the professor based on my research, So we're not asking you to go from middle school basketball to the NBA tomorrow, but take a baby step and just figure out how you can bounce the ball. Daryl, I hope that helps your question. And thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Daryl. And for anybody else having a question or maybe something that came out of that little exercise that we did together.
Yeah.
And if, you're like, I'll come back to that. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us or, just type in the comments. What came up for you? Is it something that you think would help you access that inner brilliance? Because it truly is, in order for us to really be in tune with what's going on inside, because our brains are amazing devices that have so much information in there. But in order for us to access it, we have to basically get ourselves out of the clouds and way up here in high beta, that high agitated brainwave state, come down a little bit to a more productive state that is helpful and allows you to access that strength within you. Because here's the thing, we have so much more impact and energy than we give ourselves credit for. We're constantly outside of ourselves, so we're not aware of it. It's getting back into that core sense of our being. And I'm touching my heart a lot, but for me, I've chosen to shift from being more head led to be more heart centered. So I was very head and gut. That's where I was, and I never paid attention. My heart didn't have any chance to speak at all whatsoever. I shut it down.
That's the winner.
Yeah, it wasn't until later in life that I said, okay, really, I need to choose love, not fear, right? I was not drawing a fear and logic or something. It really wasn't very productive.
Right. There's some things you can't think yourself out of, right?
No, you can't think yourself out of everything. And sometimes you just need to go with it and engage with love. So when it comes to fear, also, Daryl, I don't know if this helps you or not. When my mother moved back closer to me, I realized that there was a lot of fear and scarcity programming there that now I had the opportunity to notice and also maybe unpack in myself. And I wasn't very pleasantly impressed when I started unpacking that in myself. I was like, oh, yeah, there is a lot more there than I thought. So I'll have to really unpack some of that fear and scarcity and really leaning into the love. What does love say? Because love clears out all fear. You're right. They can't coincide in the same space.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. We're coaches, so we do this all the time. We're like mindfulness and the hearts and the brain, but there are three brains. So we do want to acknowledge that. And there is the mindfulness. And what I've seen a lot with just really busy executive clients and professional clients, doesn't have to be executives, is when they start this practice of sitting quiet, just sitting in a space of quiet, they might fall asleep. And that's okay, because that's what your body needs in that space. But just having a practice of solitude, if it's 5 minutes on the porcelain throne every morning, let your mind be empty and free to receive a divine download, really.
Yeah, or your favorite chair, after breakfast, after your body's needs are taken care of. Yeah. That's what I recommend. After your body's needs are taken care of and you're comfortable, so your body's not interrupting you with, hey, I'm hungry.
Exactly.
And before you've had 14 cups of coffee.
Right.
So Marilyn asked, she said, what should you do when your head, heart, and gut do not agree?
Yeah. That's when you need to unpack it a bit. So being able to, work with, or it could be a peer, someone who can help you just unpack what the head said, the heart, and the gut says, and then figuring out if we can bring those into alignment somehow, how to make those work together. And sometimes it's not even about making them work together, just to be aware of noticing what it is that each of them is telling you. So just as a reminder, there is the head is more logical, the things that are possible. It knows past, present, future. It has a sense of time. The heart brain is about connection and moments in time, not necessarily keeping up with past, present, but it remembers a feeling. It remembers a feeling you could have, should have, like to have, want to have. And it's about us. What does it mean for me and the world and others? And the gut is about safety, personal safety. And that's not always learned through language. It can be learned through events or experiences. Hey, when I pass this way, I need to duck because the bullies are on the way to the bus stop. And it could just happen without you even knowing what's happened. One of the examples I read in the book was a guy who'd been in the war and he'd gone out on a date with a girlfriend, and there was a loud car that backfired, and he literally hit the ground in panic and was back in the war, right? Or the kid who has a teacher who's amazing, but they break down every time this teacher's around, not knowing that they wear the same cologne that their abusive stepfather wore.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So the gut has all the information, all those untold stories that really don't have narrative, but they're through experiences. So all of those brains, each of those brains has some very valuable information and could probably be unpacked even further. What Happened to You is a great book to read about some of that. Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Steve Perry, because events sometimes shape the brains even before we could have language.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, part of that ties back into limbic brain versus a Homo sapien brain. Mm-hmm. I'm a neuroscience nerd, so I've got
love it. Bring it.
Yeah. So, limbic brain, remembers everything. So it's that card catalog of all of our life experiences, and the Homo sapien brain, that fluffy stuff around there. A lot of that fluffy stuff. It's, logic, reason, frontal lobes, we reason through things. However, the limbic brain will hijack you if it feels like you're in danger. So some of our past experiences that have been, let's just say, unfortunate enough to where it's borderline an issue for us. We'll give you just a breakdown of how people develop PTSD, which is not just exclusive to veterans of the war, okay? Mm-hmm. PTSD can be developed anytime you have a strong negative emotion and you feel helpless. Ooh. That tells your limbic brain to etch that instance and circumstance into your emotional memory so it can protect you in any other instances. So something that's similar, like the young boy who smelled that cologne, that was a part of that. It keyed in a PTSD response. That's emotional hijacking. Your cognitive brain doesn't have a chance. Okay, so it is also, unfortunately, not something you can do away with. You can mitigate it. You can't erase it, if that makes sense. It's permanent. But we can mitigate it. So I've coached clients through corporate PTSD. Yes, it happens.
Yeah.
Happens a lot. And just being aware of something, if there is a scenario or situation that you respond in a certain way and you're not sure why, and maybe it's extreme response, it's misaligned with whatever's happening, then maybe that might be something for you to consider. Is my limbic brain throwing out an emotional, etched emotional memory that's triggering a response that's emotionally hijacking me, basically? That's just something to keep in mind because it does happen.
And so when we talk about the heart and gut brain area, I'm going to ask you from a neuroscience perspective, it's those same neurons that are living in heart and gut that are in that limbic brain. They're just showing up in other parts.
It's showing up in different parts of our body, right? So somatic response, our physical response. The limbic PTSD response overrules anything in the frontal lobe.
The gut drives.
Yeah, there's a direct bypass.
Yeah,
and goes right to all the other parts of our body, and so that's just something to be aware of. If something does come up that strongly, then there might be something there. You might just want to ask yourself some questions. Okay, what was the first time I felt this way, or first time I was in a similar situation? That first memory, you shouldn't have any problem remembering it if that was the case, because it will come back pretty quickly. Oh yeah, that time I was bullied in elementary school, and the bully pushed me off the merry-go-round. But remember those things, the death machines?
Right. That you don't want to be pushed off of.
Yeah, you don't want to be pushed off of, and it broke my jaw. I mean, and yeah, whatever, right? So, something like that. Not me. That didn't happen to me. But it's theoretically, that could be the case. So,
Erin, you said something about it'll always be there and working through it, and that's one of the things that I've got a client. She has a Audi, like her Siri in the car tells you to take the feeder road, but it says the slip road. So there are times where we figured out how to mitigate some of that that's happened to us, and boy, we're on the highway of life. And if we're not careful, an event can take place, and we're back on the slip road or the feeder road. Right. And then we need to get back on the highway. So one of the things I think is brilliant, I'll give it to my coach, Jill Pickett. I was working on just being enough. And I've done some pretty good work. And then I had this dilemma and something showed up. And then we got to the root of it. It was rooted in, I'm not enough. And I went, God darn it, I've been working on that. I thought I was done with that. And she said, no. It'll always be the 2-lane highway, the slip road. And you just say, oh, wait, I'm on the slip road again, and I need to get back to the highway.
Of course, correct.
So it doesn't go away, unfortunately, but
it doesn't quite go away.
Yeah.
But, it's know how to course correct.
Right.
Elevating that awareness, making the unconscious. And that's why we want to access our inner brilliance, because when we do that, we can course correct a lot faster.
Right.
And we're not 6 months down, in this thing, no, you don't have to live in a manner that's not your choosing.
Yeah.
I know we've had some really deep conversations so far. Right. And Sonya, I want to make sure that we also access those other tips that you have for us to,
sounds like you covered a lot of them. Well, and also tips were coming from the head brain, right? So it's like, here's the things to remember at work.
Yeah, here's our list.
Here's my list. I guess it would be be a good steward, right? So we all have time, treasure, talent. That's what we're gifted with. We all spend and use it at different levels, right? And so talent is innate ability. But as we grow and hone that talent, it can be stronger. We can actually learn new talent. So it's powerful. It works on our behalf. It's planted. We can water it and grow it. Treasure, the whole relationship with treasure is interesting. But you could lose all your treasure, and if you know how to earn it, you'll get it back.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, whoa. Treasure and gifts. Is that the same thing?
Treasure and gifts?
And gifts. You mentioned our innate talent and our treasure. Is that that's the same thing, or are those two?
Oh, I was separating those because I think talent would be the gifts, and maybe they're the gifts that are honed especially for you. And if you don't use those talents, you lose them. And I think treasure is really the financial capacity, the things we're able to be generous with and offer help. I like your idea, though. Could my talents create treasure? The Bible says, and I'll just use that. It's what I believe, that your rooms, your gifts will make room for you and bring you for a great man.
I found that in my research, it certainly has. What's interesting with gifts and talents is they're natural to us. So oftentimes they fly under the radar, and it really does require a little bit of an intentional digging and exploration to uncover those. And some of those we grow into. There may have been a spark there when we were young.
Yeah.
Some things that show up when you're young is like, oh, okay, it's really, math is really easy for me, or English is really easy for me, or I'm an artist. Those are big gifts that they show up. They're more demonstrative. It's those ones that are more subtle. Like for me, the ability to know a person deeper than they know themselves, that's something that evolved over time. And what's interesting when I look back at it, it was actually a defense response.
Oh, wow. You needed to know them better than you knew, so you could make your move.
Right. Ooh. So I could defend myself.
Yeah.
Because when I went into kindergarten, it was like, I was taller than everybody. I was different. And you know how little kids are. They're cruel. So I was immediately like this. I might as well have a big target painted on me. So yeah, it was like that all the way up until my freshman year of high school.
Yeah. And I think the more you hone those gifts, like you said, over time, they do become even talents, right? That they're natural for us. There's and Erin, we can put it in the box later. I can share it with you. Capfinity out of the UK does a real complimentary, simple strengths profile. And it'll show you, it's based on like 37 strengths. It'll show you strengths you have that bring you energy and you do really well. Mm-hmm. Strengths you have that bring you energy, but you don't use them so much. Like maybe you haven't recognized them so much.
That would be really useful because I do a lot of work with my clients around, energy maps, because every circumstance will either drain your energy, give you energy, and there are some that will be neutral.
Yeah. So that's a really good way to, and then they tell you where you absolutely fail. And the things you've learned to do so well, they look like strengths, but they don't give you energy. Right?
So that's affinity? That's affinity?
Called Capfinity. I will get the exact link for the complimentary profile and I'll share it to you.
Perfect.
So if you've got those 3 stewards, right? I'm steward over my talent and what I do with those. I'm steward over my treasure. And if I lose treasure, I want to grow talent, I can do it, right? It's fungible. Time, non-refundable. Once it's spent, it's gone. So that's everything. So how we spend our time at work, in life, with family, the decisions we make to participate in that. This true story. I traveled. I was on a global team, but I was here in America. I was the only woman. We meet in different parts of the world 4 times a year. You know, Erin, from oil and gas, how. And my kids were younger. And I had a really good relationship with my leaders. They were all men. And all white men, actually. And I was like the new talent. So talk about a lot of insecurities. But I wasn't insecure when it came to my kids. And I'm like, if we're meeting in some other part of the world, there's all this stuff I have to do just to get on the plane. Dinners have to be prepared. All the practices have to be mapped out. Yeah. And so at any point in this meeting, because we meet 3 or 4 days on end, if you're wasting my time, I'm going to raise a flag. And I'm going to tell you that this is not a good use of our time. And our team actually loved that because it kept us focused, right? Yeah. But funny story, my boss used to say, I know you love your kids. One day, though, you're going to roll up to the school and push them out of the car. It happens. You just are so tired of them. That never really happened, but I could see what he was saying.
Yeah.
But so our time at work or either our time at home, when it gets compromised, those are big decisions and we can't allow others to make them for us. That's where we have to do the self-authoring of, well, how do I expect for myself to be in this relationship? What boundaries do I have? How do I decide? It just kind of makes it easier when we are anchored in clear boundaries and expectations. If I translate that to teams, the people say, I got this new team. Well, did you ever set expectations? Did you guys ever
I love
anchor?
that what you shared with us earlier is we teach other people how to treat us.
Oh my
That's
God.
Powerful.
Yeah.
That was really amazing. I love that statement.
And we do it in boundaries and expectations. And then needs, requirements, all the other pieces. But absolutely.
Here's what we do, though.
Yeah.
We do. We don't communicate. We don't share. And we think other people will just get it.
They're not going to get it.
They're too busy with all their head trash.
Oh, my God.
They're not going to get yours. You need to articulate that.
Right.
And particularly if you're in a hybrid environment where you're not, meeting with people personally and in the same airspace, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not getting that 360-degree view of someone and those body language cues. And not everybody is as demonstrative as I am on if you even get to see anybody,
right?
Circle in their, smiling face. So it's, setting those boundaries, getting out of the authentic self, getting in touch with what's going on in here, making intentional, smart decisions when we're in touch and balanced, and knowing what our gifts are, as you touched on, which I love, and then. There's another part of you mentioned with time. And it's something that I would love your take on, Sonya, because particularly now, I feel like well-being is no longer an option. And we've made it optional for ourselves for way too long. And here's why I feel very strongly about this. We are now in we're starting a new age of being. We're in a beautiful, transformative time, which is also can be really stressful because it's change, and we don't like change. Human beings don't like change. We like to associate that with, uncertainty and their fear, blah, blah, blah. So what's really interesting is we're at a rate of compounded change now. And some of the stats that I've seen is, gosh, I could share it with you. It's exponentially compounded change. So in other words, an innovative state where it used to be something would take 6 months to develop, now it will happen a week. And we're also drinking through a fire hose with information available at our very fingertips, smartphones, internet, demands on our time, email. Who doesn't have an email graveyard? Anybody? That stuff that's way at the bottom of your inbox that's been there for 6 months.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so much coming at us. Well, we also have to consider, okay, our timeline as human beings. Our current technological innovation is just not even a speck on that timeline. I mean, it's so recent. Yet we expect ourselves to show up in all of these spaces and absorb all of this information that's literally inundating us. A billion miles per hour. Our brains aren't built to handle it.
Right. Yeah.
So we are pulling ourselves so thin. When you think about time as a non-replenishable resource,
right?
How much demands we put on ourselves to show up at all of these spaces, and how much we try to cram into a given day.
Wow.
No wonder we go through a week with a mild sense of panic.
Yeah.
Really, I encourage people to be intentional with your efforts.
You know, you make me think of a book called Margin. I was looking it up to make sure. It's new and updated, but over 20 years ago, one of the college mentors mentioned Margin. The subtitle, Restoring Emotional, Physical, Financial, and Time Reserves to Overloaded Lives. But the way it was explained to us back then was the tail's wagging the dog. Technology and data and information is bigger than us. So we have to have it. It can't have us. So then we need to take a step back. Now, I set boundaries around news. You know, then people are like, you haven't heard that? No, because I'm selective about what I let in. Going back to boundaries and expectations. I think the thing that helps me focus time and not be overloaded. This is an analogy from, since we just had Super Bowl, but years ago I heard Deion Sanders, and he's a real flashy football player, but he talked about life is pretty much like a sports game, a football game. The difference is there's no time clock. So you really don't know how much time you have. In sports, you can say, okay, we got 3 minutes. We can get a touchdown, kick a ball, you know. So that if you think of your life in that analogy, that there's 4 quarters, hopefully, like we don't even know when the game will end, technically, let alone the amount of time we get to play. But we could guesstimate that we're in where we are in our lives and all the other information we have. We're either in the first quarter, which go people in the first quarter, the second quarter, we're at halftime, or in the third quarter, right, of our lives. How do we want to spend it? Because pretty soon the game will be ending, right? Or it could be at any juncture, but where am I now? How do I want to spend my time? And how do I make it in the most simple, profound, salient places that I show up and give this reserve of time that's non-refundable? Once it's spent, it's gone. You can't get it back.
That's right.
And then I would highly recommend, I didn't know there was a new and updated version, so I will be buying the new and updated version of Margin. The author is Richard Swenson. I'll make sure I send that along with the Infinity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We definitely
I just think it's important. Yeah. You manage time. Don't let it manage you. And you can't even manage time, right? Honestly. Like, who are we? But we can capture moments, right? We can be present with one another. I appreciate you today, even just let's play. Let's do improv. Let's do mindfulness. Let's really capitalize on the time we have together today. Right. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I hope this time that each of you tuning in either now or later has given us, has been valuable. Sonya, it's been such a pleasure having you on your coffee chat today.
So grateful. Thank you.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Helping us tap into our inner brilliance, walking us down that path of paring away that which distracts us from our own, what I would call our power reserves. Yeah. Because we're like buffeted by this and that, and if you're constantly off balance, it's hard to access that inner brilliance. Each and every single one of us, each and every one of you have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Again, thank you so much, Sonya.
Thank you, Erin.
Please reach out to Sonya if you haven't already. Connect with her on LinkedIn. And for all of you tuning in, thank you so much for sharing space with us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you, Mariama. Stephanie, great to see you. All of you tuning in now or later. And also, don't be shy if you watch this replay later. Have a question, reach out to us. So until then, my friends, keep elevating.
Thank you for tuning in on the Career Coffee Chat podcast. It's been a pleasure. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is coacheurban@gmail.com or tweet at coacheurban, Instagram coach.eurban, or reach out to my Facebook group, Elevate Your Career. So I'd love to learn more about you, hear your insights, and what questions you have. You can find out more about me at coacheurban.com. And don't forget, please do reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me at Erin Urban. Until next time, cheers. Here's to caffeinating your career.